Call to order the Monday, September 22nd meeting of the Verona Common Council, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we'll have the roll call. Ms. Schofield, please.
Alderperson Diaz.
Here.
Alderperson Doyle.
Here.
Alderperson Linder.
Here.
Alderperson McGilvery.
Here.
Alderperson Reekie.
Here.
Alderperson Steiner.
Here.
Alderperson Touche.
Present.
And Alderperson Yers.
Here. We have everyone present, therefore we have a quorum. Thank you for that, everyone. Next, we have public comment. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak this evening? Anyone from the public that wishes to speak? I'm not seeing any member of the public in the audience, so with that I will move on the agenda. Included with your packet are the minutes of the September 8th meeting of the Common Council. What's your pleasure?
I'll move approval.
We have a motion by Mr. Yers. Is there a second? Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Reekie. Were there any additions or corrections to the minutes of the previous meeting? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval of minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried, and the minutes are approved for this evening. This evening, under Mayor's business, I have nothing to report. I'll let Mr. Burns go, and I'll see if there's anything I want to add. But Mr. Burns, if you would.
Okay, thank you. A few updates this evening. First of all, construction is continuing on the fire and EMS facility project. Asbestos abatement has taken place within the existing fire structure. Demolition of the administrative offices for the existing fire station will be happening this week, and fire is will continue to operate out of the apparatus bays, and there's also a trailer on site for some of the administrative offices. With the demolition of the administrative portion of the building, that will allow the contractors to continue extending the excavation and basement foundation for the remainder of the first floor site. We do have the bills for the first construction pay request included in the bills for payment this evening. We are working with the construction manager and the contractors and getting an overall construction schedule update with being able to proceed with the demolition of the administrative part of the fire station. That will allow us to keep moving, so we should be on schedule for completion in the spring, and we'll work on getting a more detailed timeline out in the coming weeks. The City Council had previously acted to approve a lease agreement for the city's old library facility at 130 North Franklin, subject to final review and approval by the city attorney and the city administrator. We did have a few modifications to the wording of the lease agreement. Those were agreed to by the party that's interested in leasing, Redeemer Bible Fellowship. They've executed that agreement, and they are now in the new location and working on getting it ready for their use. There's a Dane County Cities and Villages meeting planned for this Wednesday, the 24th, which will take place in Marshall at their library at 5 p.m. And I'd sent out an update from Dane County Cities and Villages today that included the agenda and information for that meeting. Mayor Hokemer and I will be attending on behalf of Verona. And then for the schedule of Finance Committee meetings on the budget, we have 3 meetings scheduled at this point. Monday, September 29th, starting at 4 p.m. Monday, October 6th, starting at 4 p.m. and planning to wrap up about 6 p.m. that night. And then Monday, October 20th, again starting at 4 p.m. and targeting to wrap up around 6 p.m. We have a tentative schedule of departments for when departments would be making their requests, and I'm hoping to get that sent out and finalized tomorrow. So that'll be coming out shortly. Be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions, Mr. Steiner?
Mr. Burns, at finance meetings, are they going to be in the conference room or in here?
I believe we're planning on holding them in the conference room at City Hall.
The large conference room?
Yeah.
Further questions for Mr. Burns? Seeing none, Bill, thank you. And we will move on to the engineer's report. Mr. Gunlock, please.
Thank you. We'll start out with the Lincoln Street reconstruction. All work has been completed except for the asphalt surface course, which is scheduled to be placed this Thursday. There are some punch list items of work that are currently being worked on. So by this time next week, Lincoln Street should be finished. Liberty Business Park Phase 1. The asphalt surface course is scheduled for placement next week. That will complete the Phase 1 construction. Prairie Oaks Phase 3. Project is complete except for sidewalk installation, which is waiting for the completion of the apartment buildings. The buildings are a little close to the sidewalk, and they just want to get the buildings up before they put the sidewalk in. Locust Street reconstruction, the electric utility relocation has been completed, and the contractor started underground utility work and grading operations today. Project is scheduled for completion in the middle of November. Cathedral Point Phase 4, north portion of the project has been completed through the sidewalk installation with street terrace restoration this week. The south portion has the underground utilities almost completed. Street grading and curb and gutter installation will follow over the next couple of weeks. All work will be completed by early to mid-November. Scenic Ridge Phase 6, asphalt binder course and concrete sidewalks have been installed. Street terrace restoration is ongoing. All work except the asphalt surface will be completed over the next couple of weeks. And finally, Cathedral Point Phase 5, Cathedral Point Locust Addition, and Scenic Ridge Phase 5. These are phases of subdivision work that were done last year, but concrete, curb, gutter, and sidewalk repairs have been marked in the field. As soon as the contractor makes these repairs, the asphalt surface course will be installed on the streets in these phases of the subdivisions, and that will complete construction of these phases. That completes my report. If there's questions, I'll try to answer them.
Are there any questions for Mr. Gunlock this evening? Not seeing any. Thank you, Bob.
Welcome.
We'll move then to committee reports. We'll begin with the Finance Committee. Mr. McGilvray, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under item 9A1, I'll make a motion to approve payment of the monthly bills in the amount of $1,169,810.52.
We have a motion by Mr. McGilvray. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Doyle. Mr. McGilvray?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the way of explanation, 4 of the larger items from this month's bills. First being to Epic Systems, it is a TIF 7 TIF Note Parking Garage 1 payment. It's an annual payment for principal and interest on that construction, $657,900. Second one being to Hammersley Stone Company for the Lincoln Street reconstruction, $94,788.55. Third being to J.H. Fendorf and Son, which is for labor and concrete on the fire and EMS facility. That amount is $81,035. And finally, also for the fire and EMS station, to South Central Contracting, Inc. for earthwork and demolition, we have $98,119.80.
Thank you, Mr. McGilvray. Are there questions for the Finance Committee or for city staff on the bills? If not, the motion before you is to approve the bills in amount totaling $1,169,810.52. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried, and the bills are approved. Anything else from the Finance Committee?
No, sir.
Thank you, Mr. McGilvray. We'll move then to Public Works, Sewer, and Water. Mr. Touche, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to make a motion to approve change order number 2 for the Lincoln Street reconstruction and water main replacement project.
We have a motion by Mr. Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Diaz. Mr. Touche?
Thank you. Change order number 2 for the Lincoln Street reconstruction and water main replacement project is a result of the deteriorated condition of the existing stormwater sewer pipe location. The work consisted of removing the existing storm sewer pipe and replacing it with an 18-inch diameter pipe end, and a new apron end wall with gate. This work was performed on a time and material basis. The total cost of the change order number 2 is $9,243.43, which brings the total contract amount to $858,229.65.
You have heard the explanation by Mr. Touche. Are there questions for the committee or for city staff or for our engineer? Seeing none, all those in favor of change order number 2 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Mr. Touche?
Thank you. Under item 9B2, I would like a motion to approve a letter of proposal for appraisal services for the 9 Mound Road reconstruction project.
We have a motion by Mr. Touche. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. McGilvray. Mr. Touche?
Based on the proposed alignment of North 9 Mound Road and the intersection of County Highway PD, the city will need to acquire additional right-of-way to accomplish the project. The scope of the work involves contacting property owners along 9 Mound Road to add more lanes to that road to accommodate the traffic. The total cost for the services provided under the proposal is not to exceed $13,000. Funding for this work will come from the Tax Increment Financing District 7.
Again, you've heard the explanation from Mr. Touche. Are there questions for the committee, staff, or city engineer? Seeing none, the motion before you is to approve the letter of proposal for appraisal services for the 9 Mound Road reconstruction project. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Mr. Touche?
Under item 9B3, I would like to make a motion to approve an addendum to the developer's agreement for Liberty Business Park Phase 1.
We have a motion by Mr. Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Diaz. Mr. Touche?
An addendum to the development agreement for the Liberty Business Park Phase 1 is being drafted to address additional street improvements for the extension of Liberty Drive, Clarity Street, and Laser Street. Bids have been received for this work and will be considered under the next agenda item. At the time for repairing this memo, the addendum has not been completed by the city's legal counsel. The addendum will be available Monday afternoon, and staff will email out the document and have a hard copy available. Needed to read that one further.
So we have the information, the Public Works and Sewer Committee met prior to the council meeting, but Mr. Burns?
Yeah, if I could, first of all, I do have some extra hard copies if anyone else needs a hard copy of that. Otherwise, just wanted to summarize a couple items that are in here. This addendum to the agreement would include a description of a couple of additional public improvements, which is the next item on the agenda for awarding the bid for extending Liberty Drive 175 feet to the north, constructing 612 feet of Clarity Street going to the east from Liberty Drive, and Laser Street 475 feet to the east from Liberty Drive. It would also clarify that the city would be responsible for installing standard street lighting along the streets that the city is constructing as part of Phase 1, and that any additional cost for decorative street lighting within this phase would be the responsibility of the developer. With these improvements, that would essentially utilize the city's TIF allocation that it had planned for Liberty Business Park Phase 1. And just to clarify, although the item on the agenda for the next item refers to Street Improvements Phase 2, that is all part of the Phase 1 development agreement area. There's the street improvements that have already gone in, and then these additional improvements, which would also be part of the Phase 1 development area. The other item that we wanted to suggest at a staff level is that due to the time sensitivity of this to get the work done this fall, is that we would have a requirement that the amendment be executed by the developer no later than the 24th, which would be the Wednesday of this week. I did receive an email from the developer's attorney this afternoon indicating that they are agreeable to the terms, so there shouldn't be any problem there, but we just want to make sure that this is done timely and that the work for item 4 is able to start yet this fall.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Are there any additional questions or comments? You've heard the motion. The motion is to approve the addendum to the developer's agreement for Liberty Business Park Phase 1. Seeing no questions or comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Mr. Touche?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under item 9B4, I would like to make a motion to approve a contract for Liberty Business Park Street Improvements Phase 2.
We have a motion by Mr. Touche. Is there a second? Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Ms. Reekie. Mr. Touche?
3 sealed bids were received for the project. The low base bid was submitted by Iowa Grant Trucking Incorporated in Livingston, Wisconsin, in the amount of $764,122.25.
You have heard the motion. We have a motion and a second. Are there questions or comments? Just a brief, Mr. Kleinmeyer.
Just one comment, is this motion conditioned upon the developer, I had to step outside for a phone call, is this motion conditioned on the developer signing the addendum that was just approved?
And Mr. Burns had indicated that he had communications with the developer, and the developer is agreeable to signing by, that's fine. That's fine, Mr. Burns?
Yeah, what I had suggested is that, that we require execution of the amendment to the development agreement by the 24th, which would be this Wednesday. And perhaps if the maker and the second agree, we could just clarify that that's part of the motion.
I agree.
Mr. Ricky? Okay. Further questions or comments on that motion to award the bid? The only other comment that I was going to make on awarding the bid is that the successful bidder in this, for this project has not done business with the city of Verona prior to this, but the references that Mr. Gunlock and others have done have checked out, and the engineer is making his recommendation that we accept this bid. Seeing no, that Mr. Gunlock, go ahead.
Yeah, I have one question. If you award this tonight to them, can I get the contract documents out to them tomorrow? Or do we have to wait until the 24th when this is signed?
Mr. Burns or Mr. Reader, if you would come to the podium, please, Ron.
Bob, I intend to make contact with Mike Green tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.
Okay.
And I'm going to encourage him to have that document signed and sent back to me tomorrow yet. So
Okay.
I'm very comfortable of us sending them contract documents out to get this thing rolling.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Reader. Seeing no other questions, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Is there anything else from Public Works, Sewer, and Water Committee?
No, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Touche. We'll move then to the Public Safety and Welfare Committee. Mr. Yurs, please.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion to deny the operator's license for Vance Zahner.
We have a motion by Mr. Yurs. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Touche. Mr. Yurs?
Thank you. Earlier tonight, Chief Coughlin recommended the denial of the operator license application for Vance Zahner pursuant to City of Verona Ordinances, Section 7-2-31, Parent B, Parent 2. The committee did hold a hearing where Mr. Zahner also came and spoke to the committee. However, the city can deny a license for 3 reasons. One would be a failure to disclose information on the application. 2, the applicant is a felon. And 3, that they have violations substantially related to being able to serve alcohol. And it was the committee's belief that Mr. Zahner meets all 3 of these categories. He has 6 OWI offenses, along with a possession of marijuana charge, and an OAR, operating after revocation, and a probation violation. The committee voted unanimously to deny Mr. Zahner the license.
And the motion from the committee is to recommend denial.
Correct.
You have heard the motion. You've heard the explanation. Are there questions or comments from the alders? Seeing none, all those in favor of denial of the operator's license signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Mr. Yurs, anything else from Public Safety and Welfare?
Nothing further tonight.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move then to Personnel Committee. Ms. Doyle, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under item 9D1, I would like to make a motion to approve the reference and background check policy.
We have a motion, and prior to the second, there was a slight revision at the committee level.
Right.
And I was wondering if Mr. Burns or Ms. Doyle?
That's for 9.3.
Was it for 9.3?
Yeah. I think, wasn't that the disabilities?
No, it was on.
Oh, it was?
It was
Oh,
on the-
sorry about that.
So if we could, I'll have Mr. Burns read the revised language for this item, if that's acceptable to you.
That's fine.
Mr. Burns?
Yeah, the revised language was in the final sentence of the policy regarding providing of references. That sentence currently reads, employees providing reference information should avoid making accusations of improper conduct, and any information provided regarding employee conduct or termination should be based on objective evidence. The committee had recommended a change to the wording so that that sentence would read, employees providing reference information should base their statements on objective evidence and avoid making unsubstantiated accusations of improper conduct. And that would be the end of the sentence. So basically just clarifying and reordering the information in that sentence.
Ms. Doyle, I just want to make sure that you still agree with the motion.
Certainly.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion? Seconded by Mr. Yurs. Questions or comments on the motion regarding reference and background check policy? Ms. Doyle?
I'd just like to share a brief background. So one of the recommendations coming from a risk assessment process conducted with the city's insurance carrier is to adopt a formal policy regarding reference and background checks for employment. This policy specifies that the city may conduct checks of references, past employers, criminal records, driving records, and/or credit checks in order to verify application information and to identify any job-related concerns. The policy also provides guidance to ensure that the city uses any information obtained from these checks appropriately and that confidentiality is maintained.
Thank you, Ms. Doyle. Questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval of the reference and background check policy signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Ms. Doyle?
Under item 9D2, I'd like to make a motion to approve the hazardous communication policy.
We have a motion by Ms. Doyle. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Reekie. Ms. Doyle?
Another recommended policy is regarding hazardous communication. This policy identifies requirements and procedures for tracking and making available information on hazardous products or chemicals used by the city for employees, visitors, and contractors who may have exposure to these materials. The city has begun using an online database, MSDS Online, to maintain an inventory of safety data sheets for products used in the workplace. We will be working with CIVMIC to provide training to employees on hazardous communication policy and the MSDS Online system. And just for reference, CIVMIC stands for City and Villages Mutual Insurance Company.
Thank you, Ms. Doyle. Questions or comments for the committee or for city staff? Seeing none, the motion before you is to approve the hazardous communication policy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Ms. Doyle, please.
Item 9D3, I would like to make a motion to approve the Americans with Disability Act.
We have a motion by Ms. Doyle. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Yurs. Ms. Doyle?
And just to amend that, it should be a policy. I was
Policy.
reading off the screen there. Sorry about that.
That's right.
So the Americans with Disability Act prohibits discrimination against qualified individuals with disability regard to employment and requires that qualified individuals with disability have access to city programs and activities. Staff has worked with CIVMIC to draft an ADA policy for the city defining the requirements of the law, the procedures for individuals to request accommodations, and the process for reviewing such requests. The policy identifies the city administrator as the city's ADA coordinator. It also includes a Title II notice informing the public about the key provisions of the ADA and providing department contacts and forms for requesting accommodations.
Again, you have heard the background on the policy, and the committee is recommending. Are there questions or comments for the committee or for staff? Seeing none, all those in favor of the Americans with Disabilities Act policy signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Ms. Doyle, please.
Under item 9D4, I will make a motion to approve the Code of Conduct policy.
We have a motion by Ms. Doyle. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Reekie. Ms. Doyle?
The city has a general personnel policy that covers topics such as personnel management, compensation and benefits, and employment actions. It is also recommended that the city establish a separate code of conduct policy that defines expected standards of conduct for city employees and certain prohibited actions. Some of the specific actions are prohibited under the policy include working unauthorized overtime, except in case of emergency, excessive tardiness or unexcused absences, reporting for work under the influence of illegal drugs or alcohol, gambling on city premises and/or during work time, or insubordination. And just to add, we did establish that it was all right for some gambling at the senior center as long as employees didn't participate.
Questions or comments? You've heard the background. Questions or comments for the committee or for staff? Seeing none, all those in favor of the code of conduct policy signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Anything else, Ms. Dahl?
That is all.
Okay, I would just like to commend Bill and the rest of the staff for bringing these to us. I know you continue to work on policies and update them. It's the right thing to do, and it takes a lot of time, and I just want to thank you for bringing it for our consideration. So with that, we have old business and new business where we would move into closed session. I would ask, our city attorney is here this evening, and Mr. Kleinmeyer, is there any comments you want to make prior to going into closed session? Or the need, or on the need to go in?
Open session comments would be appropriate.
Okay. So we have, again, old and business under old business and under new business. We could, as we have done in the past, have a separate motion on each, one following the other, so that we don't have to go into closed session, reconvene in open, and go back into open session. But each one of these items would require a separate roll call vote. Mr. Yurs?
I'd like to make a motion under 10-1 to go into closed session concerning case number 13CV3717, Local 311 AIFF AFL-CIO versus City of Verona and the Verona Joint Fire District, Dane County Circuit Court, currently pending. The Common Council may convene in closed session as authorized by Section 19.85, Parent 1, Parent G of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of conferring with City of Verona legal counsel who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the city with respect to litigation in which it is involved. The Common Council may reconvene in open session and discuss and take action on the subject matter discussed in closed session.
We have a motion by Mr. Yurs. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Linder. This vote requires a roll call vote. I would have Ms. Schofield read the roll, please.
Alderperson Rieke?
No.
Alderperson Steiner?
Aye.
Alderperson Touche?
Aye.
Alderperson Yurs?
Aye.
Alderperson Diaz?
No.
Alderperson Doyle?
Aye.
Alderperson Linder?
Aye.
And Alderperson McGilvery?
Aye.
The motion to go into closed session has passed 6-2. And now we could accept a motion on the second one, agenda item number 11 under new business.
Go do.
We have Mr. Touche.
I would like a motion to move into closed session under item 9 or 11-1, potential purchase of property in the downtown. The Common Council may convene in closed session as authorized by Section 19.85, Paren 1, Paren E of the Wisconsin statute for purpose of debating or negotiating the purchase of public properties whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session. The Common Council may convene in open session and take action on the closed session item.
We have a motion by Mr. Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Was seconded by Mr. Linder. Again, this requires a roll call vote. Ms. Schofield, if you'd read the roll, please.
Alderperson Steiner?
Aye.
Alderperson Touche?
Aye.
Alderperson Yurs?
Aye.
Alderperson Diaz?
No.
Alderperson Doyle?
Aye.
Alderperson Linder?
Aye.
Alderperson McGilvery?
Aye.
And Alderperson Rieke?
No.
And the motion to go into closed session passes 6-2. We are now in closed session. We are back in open session. We are on agenda item number 12, which is announcements. Do we have any announcements? I'm sorry, I skipped one. Thank you. We have approval of operator license. This is agenda item 11-2. Ms. Schofield, please.
Tonight we have operator licenses from David Zerbucken and Kaylee Richards, both for Avantis.
Move approval.
We have a motion by Mr. Yurs. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Doyle. Any questions or comments on, Mr. Diaz?
I'm sorry, I missed the name. I was coughing.
I'm sorry.
The names were David Zerbucken and Kaylee Richards.
Further questions? Seeing none, the motion is to approve the operator's licenses. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries, and the operator licenses are approved. We are now on agenda item number 12, announcements. Do we have any announcements this evening? Do we have any announcements this evening? Seeing none, a motion to adjourn would then be in order.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Yurs. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Doyle. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.